All right, 6 o'clock chat here. What's up, my friends? Trailblazers topped the 76ers last night in Summer League action, 97-95. Another strong performance for Donovan Clingan, who finished with 8 points, 11 boards, 5 assists, and 3 blocks, including 2 key defensive plays in the final moments to help secure the win. Tonight, Portland will meet the Washington Wizards, 5:30 tip on NBA TV. Team USA holds off Australia 98-92 in Olympic tune-up exhibition action. Anthony Davis finished with 17 points and 14 rebounds. The 94th All-Star Games tonight. First pitch at 5 on Fox. Paul Skeens and Corbin Burns will be the starters. Teoscar Hernandez became the first Dodger to win the home run derby, holding off Bobby Witt Jr. in the final round. From the NFL, the Cleveland Browns have extended Dustin Hopkins on a 3-year deal worth $15.9 million. Rip City Mornings with Chad Doings coming up next. We will talk NBA with Keith Smith at 7:20 and Joe Deleone talking college football at 8:20. Well, what's going on, my friends? Rip City Mornings, Chad doing in once again for Justin Myers, who is on vacation. He's back tomorrow. Brenden Slaughter is here. And it's wonderful to look outside the windows here at the studio and see nothing but clear skies. We have more sunshine, which is coming in. And I believe we have a heat advisory. So it's going to be a warm one as we continue through July. It's awesome. And it's great to be here. Coming up on the show, we'll talk some basketball. Keith Smith will join us at 7:20. I want to get his take on this latest fiasco with the Los Angeles Clippers. They are a train wreck of a franchise. Even with Steve Ballmer and his red face and all of his money, he cannot right the ship with the Clippers, who are now saying that they have no idea why Kawhi Leonard is not on Team USA anymore. So I've got some thoughts on that. Summer League action. We'll get his take on Donovan Clingan, who had another strong performance last night in game number 2 down in Summer League. And we'll take a look around the league. Also, the NBA media rights deal and what that means for the future of viewing and basketball. And then at 8:20, my good buddy Joe Deleone will talk college football and focus in on SEC Media Days, the upcoming Big Ten Media Days, which will be next week. Justin Myers is going to be there to cover Big Ten Media Days, which is going to be pretty sweet. He'll be there. He'll talk to all the players and coaches from Oregon, Washington, Michigan, and the rest. And he will be live from Indianapolis. So we'll get his take on the media days. But the main reason why I want to talk to Joe is that he was ODing on NCAA 25 yesterday. I think he had the deluxe package, and so he was playing and live streaming some of it and putting videos out. And the graphics, it's just amazing to me where video games have gone. Because
Pretty
the
sweet.
first football game that I played when I was younger was hot garbage. And then we slowly progressed. We got Tecmo Bowl, and the technology's gotten better. So we'll get his latest thoughts on NCAA 25. Now, did you get the deluxe version, Brenden, or are you going to wait until Friday? What's your plan there?
Oh, yeah, no, I had the deluxe. It was pre-ordered. I was actually out on the river for most of yesterday, so didn't get to play as much as I would have liked to, but got a couple games in last night before I went to bed, and it's awesome, man.
Now, do you have your Dynasty mode going already with Oregon State?
Yeah, so I haven't played a game there yet. I just kind of set the base of that, and then I'm like, oh, it's 11-something at night. I probably need to go to bed here soon. But, yeah, no, my goal is to get a season done with Oregon State before fall camp starts. So that's about 2 weeks, Chad.
Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to get my hands on the game, and I will do so Friday. But unfortunately, as I mentioned yesterday, and I found this out yesterday, thank you to our listeners for pointing this out, my console, the Xbox One, is no longer going to serve me well. So I have to go out and buy a new console as well. I just have to have the game, all right?
It's too good not to have.
Yeah, you got to have the game, and I'm a loser, and I don't have anything going on in my life, especially during the wintertime, so I need to play the game and get my dynasty mode going. So I can't wait to talk to Joe about that. I feel a little bit better this morning. Getting up early for morning radio is brutal. I did it for years, and now my body's adjusted to kind of that swing shift type situation, but I feel better today. Yesterday, I came in, did the morning show, went downstairs in the parking lot, took a nap in my car, and then I cruised out to Langdon Farms for the We Play Invitational. It was a combination of me, my good buddy Alex Nelson, his buddy Scott Belt, who can hit the ball a mile, and then a former member of the CIP School of Broadcasting and a former producer for the Rip City Drive, Kyle Nishida, who is also a very good stick. He played, and that was our foursome. And we got off to a great start, and we just continued to collect birdie after birdie after birdie. We had 2 eagles, all birdies except for 3 pars, and we parred the last 2 holes, which was very frustrating. And we came in second. We were 17 under, shot a 54, and we came in second to Ryan DePaulo, former Duck, and his group, who were 20 under par for the tournament. So what does second place get us? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No trophy, no prizes, no nothing, but we did come in second, so I was very happy with that. The course is in mint condition right now, like I've noticed with a number of courses around town, but Langdon Farms was spectacular yesterday, and I'm a guy, when I play golf, I do not like to ride in golf carts. I'm a walker. I like the movement. I like to keep my body loose and therefore keep the blood flowing. But yesterday, after getting up early and getting a subpar nap in my car before I head out to Langdon Farms, being in the cart and having some protection from the sun and not having to walk up and down the fairways, it kept my body a little bit fresh. And then I got back home pretty late last night, and then I felt the weight of everything I did yesterday. I was like, man, I got to get to bed. Got to get to bed because I was so worried about the alarm. And I really prepared myself. I set 1 alarm plus 2 emergency alarms just in case I decided not to wake up this morning.
Would it surprise you, Chad, if I said on a given morning I have 4 alarms for that purpose?
No, you have to, because this is one of those jobs that you can't be late for. You can't.
You can't call your boss back, yo, I'm stuck in traffic. I'll be there when I can. Like, that don't work. No fly.
No, morning radio is like that. You can't be late. You have to be on time, and if you're late, you can get yourself in big trouble. So all the bosses that I've ever had at many different radio stations, getting up early in the morning, how it would work is they would give you a freebie, meaning you could not wake up and not show up on time once per year, no questions asked. But if it was anything over 1 and it happened again, then you'd have some explaining to do and get yourself in hot water, because that's a big-time problem. So
Interesting. Well, Chad, I think I got some saved up then, because thankfully I've never done that to you in these glorious 4 or 5 years we've been together.
And honestly, that's the best thing I can say about you. Yeah, because morning radio is tough.
I couldn't imagine. Just like, I've certainly had jobs before this where it's like, hey, I'm stuck in bumper to bumper. I'll be, 5 minutes late. And then you're like, yeah, the clock waits for no man in this business, Chad.
And I think a lot of you can relate to that if you get up early for work or if you got to be somewhere. A lot of you have jobs where it's the same thing. You can't be late for work. And, I would get up early, and I did it year after year after year. And then the problem is it would bleed into the fear into the weekends. So sometimes I would wake up in a panic, almost having a heart attack because I feel like I'm late for somewhere. Like I'm supposed to be at the radio station, and then you're like, oh, no, it's Saturday. But because your heart's pounding through your chest, you can't fall back asleep. It's just, it's really not good for a lifestyle, for your health, for any of that. But I'm here, and I'm happy to be here. I want to start with the Trailblazers, and then coming up here in about 10 minutes, we'll hear from Coach Jonah Hurskew. We're going to hear from Donovan Clingan and also Justin Minaya. But the Blazers able to secure a win last night over the 76ers. But the real story was Donovan Clingan, who once again was able to stand up and play well. And I really thought defensively He was great in game number 1 against San Antonio. And remember yesterday we talked about how he wasn't satisfied with that effort because he felt like he missed some opportunities to make things happen on defense. Well, he bounced back last night and took his defense up another notch. And he finished with a good all-around game. He did not shoot the ball well. I think he was 1 of 8 in game 1, 4 of 11 in the game last night. But down the stretch, it was Donovan Clingan who stepped up with his defense to help lead the Trailblazers to victory. In fact, 2 key defensive plays in the final moments to secure the victory. But that's what I'm talking about. Donovan Clingan bringing his attitude, his desire to defend, his smarts. And when you have a player like that who can be an anchor on your defense, it will translate to the other guys on the floor for what he's going to bring to the practices, for what he'll bring to the games. But this is also a guy that comes out of a great program at UConn, having a chance to play for Coach Hurley. So he knows what it takes to win. He knows how important defense is, but most importantly, he wants to defend. He wants to play. And I've talked to different analysts, different guys who have played in the league, and I'm like, okay, what's the deal with defense? Is it a want to? Is it a desire thing? Do you just have to go out there and grind and play hard? Well, I think that's a yes. You have to want to play defense. But then on top of that, you also need some athleticism and a skill set which translates to being a good defender. Now, it remains to be seen, how good Clingan's athleticism will translate to the NBA, and we'll find out over time. But he's definitely got the want to. He wants to defend. He wants that to be his calling card. He wants to be a defensive presence in the paint. He wants to make shots tough on the opposing team, and he wants to lead by example. And so that's the type of player you want. And that's why the Blazers were so excited to have him fall to number 7. They didn't think he was going to be there. I didn't think he was going to be there, and yet he was there. So I think very encouraging signs 2 games into the Summer League. And again, I don't take too much from Summer League because it's the Summer League. But what we're looking for, what did we talk about yesterday? We're looking for plays, for signs that you can see from a player that can translate to the NBA. And with his defensive instincts and his ability to understand what's going on the floor, where to position himself, and being tough and rising up to protect the rim, that's going to be a big-time bonus for the Trailblazers. Because we've been asking for defense for a strong decade now, and they just haven't had the coaching / the players to be able to go out there and get it done. But Clingan, there's a lot of depth at the center position right now on the roster with, guys like Robert Williams and, of course, DeAndre Ayton. But when you defend and you're willing to defend and you can make a difference, that's a good way for a rookie to get out there on the floor, is because you can be a difference maker defensively. So we'll hear from those guys coming up next. Keith Smith at 7:20, and then Football Talk and NCAA 25 with Joe Deleone at 8:20. Chad Doing in for Justin Myers, Rip City Mornings. All right, Trailblazers over the 76ers last night in Summer League action, 97-95. They're back at it tonight, taking on the Wizards, 5:30 tip. You can watch the game on NBA TV. Donovan Clingan, the Blazers rookie, selected number 7 overall in the draft, finished with 8 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks, and had a couple of big-time defensive plays late in the game to help secure the victory for Portland. Clingan, with 17 seconds left in regulation, blocked a mid-range jump shot from Jared McCain. Then Bryce McGowan hit 2 free throws at the other end to give Portland the lead, and then Clingan stepped up once again. Coach Hurst sent Clingan in to guard McCain's inbound attempt, and Clingan forced a 5-second violation, which gave the Blazers the ball back, and they were able to seal the victory. Let's check in with Donovan Clingan, who met with the press after the game. All right, there you go. Donovan Clingan, after his strong performance last night in the victory over Philadelphia. 5 assists, which was terrific. Now, Larry Miller has just chimed in at cool_breeze and says, hey, should the Blazers consider sending Donovan Clingan for the remainder of this year's Summer League? Larry, the answer to that question is no. And the reason why is pretty simple. He needs time on the floor to continue to learn and adjust to the NBA game. Now, I'm not a big fan of Summer League and having your best players down there, your best young players, especially if they've got a Summer League under their belt, because I don't want them at risk of injury, especially a guy like Scoot Henderson. So I was glad that Scoot was not going to go, especially knowing that he is putting in the work this summer. Team is very pleased with the work he's been putting in. But for a big man in the NBA, the adjustment is so tough coming from college. You've got to get used to the speed of the game, the different athletes that you're going to face at the 4 and the 5. And most importantly, you need to have time to adjust to the officiating in the NBA. And that's going to be one of the hardest adjustments for Donovan Clingan. Getting a feel for the officials, understanding how they call the game. They don't respect young players right out of the gate. So you've got to prove yourself as an NBA player, as a defender, as a shot blocker. And he's going to have to be patient through that process because he'll get a lot of ticky-tack fouls because he's a rookie. But as he continues to work and then shows his value as a defender, as a difference maker on that end of the floor, then the officials will start to respect him and he'll get the benefit of the doubt. And that's the key. If you put yourself in position and you're not reaching and getting the cheap fouls and you're showcasing your ability as a shot blocker and as a rim protector and being an intimidator, then all of a sudden the officials will be like, hey, this guy can play. And then you'll start getting the benefit of the doubt. But that's an adjustment that needs to happen for him. Plus getting used to the NBA game, plus getting used to the Blazers sets on both ends of the floor, and also to have a chance to connect further with teammates. And one of those teammates is Justin Minaya, who, I'm happy to see him down there. The Blazers have some guys that I'm intrigued by in terms of their length and their athleticism. Minaya would be one of those guys. And Minaya was a beneficiary last night, from Clingan's vision, his feel for the game, his ability to set up his teammates. And if Clingan is going to be a facilitator and continue to showcase the ability to set his teammates up on backdoor cuts and, have that feel for the game, that's just going to add another dimension to what he can bring to the floor. I love big men that can pass. And we've seen that before. Arvydas was a great passer. Even Nurkic, one of the more underrated parts of his game was his feel and the pass and being able to set up his teammates. And then I start to think about the connection that you could have between Scoot and Clingan and the way those two guys could work in their offensive sets, especially in pick and roll situations. And Clingan, he's a bone crusher, sets good picks. But Justin Minaya had a chance to talk after the game last night. Let's take a listen to him. Yeah, Minaya mentioned McGowan's. He led the team with 28 of 8 from the foul line, and he came up clutch from the charity stripe late in the game. But I love that. Minaya talking about the passing ability of Clingan. Backdoor cuts, having the vision, being able to find his teammates. That's terrific. Minaya, 12 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, and 2 steals. So a good effort from Minaya. And finally, the coach for the Trailblazers Summer League team, Jonah Hurst-Hugh, having a chance to talk about the team's performance in the victory over Philadelphia. All right, there you go. There's Jonah Hurst-Hugh. Trailblazers get the victory over the 76ers. So far, 2 games into the Summer League, nothing but, good vibes around the team because you're getting the most out of what you want to see. And that's Donovan Clingan leading the way, which he is, and then some of the younger guys stepping up to showcase their improvements. And we're seeing that from Minaya, Chris Murray, and, of course, Ryan Rupert. And there were good performances last night. Rupert played 32 minutes, 9 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist. He was 4 of 9. Minaya had a strong performance in 19 minutes, 12 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals. He was 5 of 7. And then Bryce McGowan's led the way with 20 points. Didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but he came up clutch from the foul line, 8 of 8, and Portland's back at it tonight against the Washington Wizards. So we continue to progress through Summer League, and we'll watch the development. And that's really what this summer's all about. A lot of the young guys got a ton of time last year to play, so now it's a matter of, just continuing to put in the work and make sure that you're ready to take that next step once camp hits in late September, early October. And then we get ready for a brand new season. And then for Scoot Henderson, one of the most important off seasons of his entire NBA career is right now. He did not live up to expectations last year. Got off to a slow start. Injuries were a bit of an issue for him, missed some time. So he's got to put in the work and showcase what he can do. He's got to get better at shooting the basketball. I think he shot like 38% from the field. That's not good enough. So he's got to get better at picking his spots, getting to his spots and be able to make shots. Improve the three-point shooting, just 32% last year. That's not good enough. And then, of course, the turnovers, which is an issue for a lot of young players in the NBA. 3.4 turnovers per game, that's not good enough. Ball security is critical, especially when you're going to have the ball in your hands a lot, and you got to be the key decision maker for your head coach. So Scoot's got to make that big leap. Shaedon Sharpe just needs to be on the floor and be healthy. And we've seen flashes of his athleticism and what he can do. It's going to be critical for Shaedon to be healthy and then be on the floor with Scoot so those two can start to develop some chemistry. And then hopefully next year we'll get a better feel for who those two guys are and whether or not they can be the backcourt of the future for the Portland Trailblazers. And if you're looking for the simple fix, obviously you want Cooper Flagg. That would be beautiful to get Flagg in next year's draft. That makes things a lot easier. But one of the best ways for this team to turn it around, to get out of the doldrums of the rebuild, is for both Scoot and Shaedon to hit and to take that next step and start to flash and show what they can be next year. And if those two guys hit, the turnaround's not going to take nearly as long. If they don't hit, then that could be a potential disaster for the Trailblazers. Big time. So just something to keep an eye on as the Blazers progress through the Summer League and as we get closer to camp. But the young guys, great opportunity to play last year, and now you got to take that next step and continue to improve. And that's where we're at. So if you got any questions or thoughts in regards to the Summer League action or Donovan Clingan, you can hit me up on X at Chad and Rip City and fire your questions away. If you want to jump on board, 503-248-0620. But so far, I love what I see from Clingan. The defense is as advertised. I love his demeanor, his mindset, and what he brings to the floor. Smart guy out of a good program who works his tail off, and he wants to play defense. Like, he loves defense. He wants to be known as a defender. It's nice to have guys like that on your team. Look at the value that Derek White and Drew Holiday brought to the Boston Celtics. Now, Tatum and Brown are both very good defenders, great two-way players, but when they have two unselfish guys on the floor in Holiday and Derek White, their calling card is defense, and that's what they want to do. I just have a hard time buying into guys who don't do it on both ends of the floor. You want to be a great player in the league, you want to be a difference maker, be a two-way player. You want to be recognized for your ability, then get it done on both ends of the floor. I understand why guys want to focus on their numbers and their touches and their offense, because that's how guys get paid. You put up 25 plus, you're going to get money. But if you want to be one of the greats and you want to be one of the best players in the NBA, you have to be able to do it both ways and make a contribution defensively. And look at Team USA right now. Kawhi Leonard was out. Who'd they go after? Well, let's grab Derek White. Why? Because he can fit in with the other stars, and he's going to play defense and put us in a position to win games. And by the way, not the most, not exactly top-notch play from Team USA against Australia. And what's going on with Joel Embiid? Is he fat? I think Joel Embiid might be fat, and I think that's why Steve Kerr might be looking to replace him in the starting lineup. Just a thought, but these athletes kill me, man. It's like when you make that type of scratch, number one, the first thing I would get if I were a big-time athlete making big-time cash, I'm hiring a chef. One, because it would be cool. Two, I wouldn't have to worry about the macronutrients and making sure you get the right calories and all of that. It would just be handled by that guy. And I'd have a simple conversation. Yo, chef, I need this, and I need that. And I would make sure that I'm hooked up every day. But these NBA players, once they get out of season sometimes, or if they're going through rehab and they get out of the routine and they're not on the practice floor and they're not working out and they're not doing this and they're not doing that, they start to eat too much. And their main job, if you want to talk about a number one priority for all athletes, it is to make sure that you're in peak physical condition. And yet, some of these guys just can't do it. Zion Williamson. I saw a picture of him last week. I thought, is that a bad angle? I was like, no, he's just fat. You can't. I don't understand. So we'll keep an eye on that. But they got the win over Australia. And I just want Team USA, I don't want them to win the gold. I want them to dominate action on their way to the gold. But, Dwight was telling me the other day, and we saw it again last night, chemistry is one of the biggest hurdles for Team USA because these guys are kind of, handpicked and then pushed into the same team. And they don't have the time on the floor together. They don't have the chemistry, the connection like some of these European squads do who have played together a ton. And so Team USA's got to work on the fly to get a grips on that so they can continue to progress. All right, Rip City Mornings, Chad doing in for Justin Myers. We'll talk ball with Keith Smith, NBA coming up at 7:20, and then we'll talk college football with Joe Deleone at 8:20. All right, Rip City Mornings. Chad Doing, Brenden Slaughter with you. Keith Smith coming up at 7:20. And then we'll have a conversation with Joe Deleone coming up at 8:20, who's been playing nonstop over the last 24 hours, NCAA 25, which is pretty awesome. A great video game. And for you gamers out there, you football gamers out there, I can't wait to get my hands on this. If you've played the game, call in right now. You'll get preferential treatment, and I would love to hear how the game is. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I just got a message from a friend whose son is down at Summer League right now in Vegas, and this is a young man who's got a connection with a number of different Trailblazers over the years. Apparently, Bronny James, like his father, not signing autographs down at Summer League. No autographs. If you want Bronny's autograph, it seems like no dice.
Maybe when he averages more than 4 points a game, he'll give an autograph.
The problem is that I think I like Bronny, by hearing him talk and
Sure.
the way he operates. His dad, I can't stand, but I just feel like Bronny's been thrust into a very difficult situation because his dad wants to live out his dream, and his son has now been thrust into a spotlight that maybe he's not ready for. Now, if the plan is to insert him into the G League and allow him time to play and play big minutes and develop, then that's a good idea. I just don't believe that they're going to thrust Bronny into actual game action or meaningful game action when you have better players on the roster. That would be my guess. Because even LeBron knows, and he wouldn't admit this publicly about his son, but, players on NBA teams, they know who deserves minutes and who doesn't. They know because they're around each other every day. They go through practice, and they know who's making plays. And the way it's always been done in the NBA is that, if you want time or if you want to earn minutes, that's usually something that takes place during the course of practice. And you showcase that in practice, and then through your work in practice, you're able to step up and become a difference maker. And that's really what it's all about. All right, I want to play this. I mentioned Joel Embiid being potentially fat or at least not in the best possible condition. Let's take a listen to Steve Kerr and the possibility of restructuring the lineup and benching Joel Embiid. All right, there you go. There is Steve Kerr. So obviously, he's going to want to find the best combination of players on the floor. And the key for him, as I mentioned before, is you got to find the chemistry. The problem is these guys haven't played together, and so they're ultimately learning on the fly. Now, the problem is in that game against Canada, where the Americans performed well, he fouled out just playing 12 minutes. Like, that's not going to get the job done. But he had 10 points, 5 boards, and 2 steals in the victory over Australia. So from what I was told, I think it was Dwight that was telling me this. The problem is that the rules in the international game in FIBA are different than the NBA. And for the guys who are not used to playing FIBA rules, the adjustment is very difficult for those guys. And, especially when it comes to the ruling on, basket interference. And you can actually touch the ball when it's up on the rim. So you've got to protect on both ends and understand that. That's an adjustment. The game is called differently. And, of course, the officials are not going to respond the way that NBA officials do. Stars like Joel Embiid, and it's not just Joel Embiid. Every star does this in the NBA. They go with the theatrics. They whine and they complain and they look for the call because they're used to getting it. But the problem is in FIBA, the officials are not going to respond the same way. So that's going to be the difficult part. But I'm just being honest with you. When I watch Embiid right now, I think Steve Kerr's thinking about making a replacement just because I don't think he's in good condition right now. And you can kind of see it in the way he moves. There's certain players you can look at and you're like, that guy, what's up with that? basically every time I look at Zion. He's had a couple of moments where he's in shape and explosive, but the rest of the time is like this transition from being in shape to being out of shape to being kind of fat to, being extremely overweight. And a couple of years ago, C.J. McCollum called him out without using his name at the end of the season, saying that we've got to commit to what we do with our nutrition and our exercise and our training as a team. He was calling out Zion in that situation. And for Embiid, with the injuries and then the off time and so forth, this is what you wind up with. But hopefully he can work his way into shape because Embiid's a great player with a great talent. And he can do so many different things on the floor to help the team. So we'll see how things continue to progress. I just think that the Americans, it's pretty obvious. They have so much talent. This team's not anywhere near the 92 team, the original Dream Team, but it's really good. It could be the second best Dream Team of all time. And with the talent they have and the defenders they have, they should be able to handle competition. But the margin for error is a little bit less than what we've seen in the past. So they're going to have to play well, but I think the key is with the coaches they have, Steve Kerr and Spoelstra, can you ask for two better coaches? So between those two, they've got to make sure the guys get up to speed on the rules and that they're aware of that when they're on the floor. And then they've just got to continue to grind through practice and through their scrimmages and their exhibitions and their play to build that chemistry. And I'm very much a nationalist when it comes to Olympic competition. Like I want USA to dominate. And especially when it comes to basketball, because I don't want the Europeans or anyone else in the world to have claim on our game. Like, that's very annoying. Just imagine how painful it is for the Canadians for the fact that they haven't held the cup since the early 90s, and it drives them crazy. And the idea of someone getting over on the Americans and taking gold would be very frustrating because we have the best players. We have the best coaches, and they should be able to win. But for the life of me, these players who allow themselves to get out of shape, it drives me mad. I mean, dude, you have such a short career. You've got plenty of time after you're done playing basketball to, get a spare tire, to get the beer gut. MJ, right? He grinded and played and worked out nonstop for most of his life. And then when he was done playing basketball, he relaxed. You got plenty of time to chill and relax when you're done playing. Come on, Embiid, be better. Be better, my friend. And I can't wait to play, we'll save it, Lawrence Frank, who's probably going to be fired soon because the Clippers are a disaster. And they lost Paul George to the 76ers. Do I think who?
Lawrence Frank's on his way out?
Well, I wouldn't say on his way out because that makes it sound like it would be partly his decision.
Sure.
I just think he's going to be fired soon.
Yeah.
They give the extension to Kawhi, and then they lose Paul George. So now they have no chance to compete for a championship. None whatsoever. And this whole situation with Kawhi, the way Team USA presented it was they were making a joint decision with the Clippers in the best interest of Kawhi to make sure he stayed healthy. So we'll get to that. We'll hear comments from Lawrence Frank. We're going to talk ball with Keith Smith coming up at 7:20. Chad doing it for Justin Myers on Rip City Mornings. Yeah, Teoscar Hernandez became the first Dodger to win the home run derby last night. The 94th All-Star game tonight. The first pitch at 5. It's going to be on Fox. Paul Skeens and Corbin Burns will be the starters. Trailblazers topped the 76ers in Summer League action, 97-95. Donovan Clingan, he was strong. 8 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, including 2 key defensive plays in the final moments to help secure the win. Portland will meet the Washington Wizards tonight, 5:30. You can watch it on NBA TV. Team USA holds off Australia 98-92 in Olympic tune-up exhibition action. Anthony Davis finished with 17 points and 14 rebounds. From the NFL, the Browns have extended Dustin Hopkins for 3 years, $15.9 million. Keith Smith going to talk ball with us coming up at 7:20. All right, I would like to apologize ahead of time for what I'm about to do here on Rip City Mornings. Ingrid Andress is under a lot of criticism right now for her rendition of the national anthem before last night's home run derby. So I'm going to play a portion of the song for you and let you decide if it was awful or not. I can tell you one thing. There's not enough money under the sun where you could pay me to get up there and sing that song. If there's one song that you do not want to sing, it would be the national anthem. Because what do you have to gain? What do you gain by getting up there and singing that song in front of a national television audience? Unless you know how to nail it and you're 100% secure in your abilities, if you don't get it, then people are going to throw you under the bus, and rightfully so. There's just no upside. You couldn't pay me enough. Now, again, I cannot sing, and I respect people who can sing, but there are certain things in life that when I think about doing it, my hands get clammy and I feel weird. And singing the national anthem would be one of those things. So let's take a listen to Ingrid Andress, a country music star who put her own little spin on the national anthem.
That was rough.
All right. Here's what I don't understand, all right? Seriously, I do not understand this. This is someone who is in the industry, someone who apparently has talent, although it was not displayed last night. Usually artists or someone in Hollywood, someone in the music industry, like you've got a crew of people around you, right? You've got a crew. You've got people to help you with decisions. You've got people to help you with your musical direction. You've got people who handle your social media. Like you've got someone to handle basically every little detail of your professional life. Athletes are no different. You've got social media team. You got a little bit of this. You got your chef, hopefully, unless you're Joel Embiid and you want to be fat. You've got people to handle details. What I don't understand, I mean, heck, even for men out there, if you have a wife, You know how there are certain things you do or certain things that you are thinking about doing or you want to run something by someone before you put it out there for the masses? Hey, honey, I've got a new version of the national anthem. I just want to play this tape for you and then get your take on it. Here, take a listen to this and let me know, is this good? Is this a good direction or a bad direction? And then your wife will tell you, yeah, that's not a good direction. I'm not sure what you're trying to do there, but I'm not feeling it. I think you need to rework that. You should go back and listen to that again because it's hot garbage. No disrespect, of course. Why didn't she run that by someone? And not only that, if someone is on her team and listened to that and said, oh, yeah, that's it, man, you nailed it. Whitney Houston's got nothing on you. Then how could anyone hear that and think, yeah, you need to go with that right before the home run derby? That's a home run. That's what we need. Nice work, Ingrid. Like, seriously, I don't understand. How can you let that happen? How can someone around her let that go down like that? And not only that, but it's not like she doesn't know music. How can she rehearse that and not realize that it sucks? Honestly. Like, there's been times, like, one of the most painful things to do in this business is to go back and do an air check. And especially if you have a micromanaging boss who wants to know why you said every single thing over the course of 3 hours. Like, it makes my skin crawl. But I do listen and do air checks myself. And there's been times where I'll go back and listen to something. I'm like, oh, my gosh. I was slurring words. I made no points. I had no take, and I really sucked for 15 straight minutes. What was I doing? How she could think that that was a good idea, I have no idea. And how anyone around her didn't point that out to her is beyond me. Like, seriously, where's your help? And if someone did tell you that was the way to roll, you need to fire them immediately. But that goes back to my original point that you stand to gain nothing by going out there and singing that song. Because if you nail it and you crush it, you're just another artist who sang the national anthem. But if you mess it up and you sound like that, and your name's Ingrid, you're going to get crushed and people are going to make fun of you. And then you're going to be remembered as the person who put up one of the all-time worst. Now,
So you think the name has something to do with it here, Chad?
seriously, do you know any Ingrids? I'm not joking here. Do you know anyone named Ingrid that's your age?
Do family members count?
Let's not get hung up on
Then
details
no.
here.
Then
Okay.
no. If a family member, then no. Does not count.
Yeah, that's
It's out
bad.
there.
You don't have to do the song. You don't have to do that. Now, if you're a true diva and you're a stud like Whitney Houston and you want to add to your reputation and crush the national anthem right before the Super Bowl, then more power to you. Or if you're Marvin Gaye and you want to put on one of the best renditions before the NBA All-Star game because you're a badass like Marvin Gaye is, then sing the national anthem. But if you're Ingrid Andress and you decide you want to put your own little spin on the anthem, then you probably shouldn't do that. Now, the biggest beneficiary in this whole debacle last night is probably Fergie, who put on one of the worst renditions before, I think it was the 2018 NBA All-Star game. She was awful. And I always have people sell me on things like, oh, Fergie's great. She can do this. She can do that. Great singer. And then she put on that rendition. I'm like, I got no time for that. Now, if you suck and you know it and you just want to have fun with it, you can be like Carl Lewis. You got to love the comedy routine before he sucks. All right, I can't take any more of it. Oh, my goodness. And the worst part about that rendition is that he was doing it with Michael Jordan on the floor, who was holding back laughter during the course of his rendition. You got to love someone saying, uh-oh, during the course of the national anthem. And then trying to say he'll make up for it now and then failing even worse. That was the all-timer right there. But I think he knew that it was a disaster and he was able to laugh at himself, so that helps. But that's how we know Carl Lewis, one of the proudest athletes in our nation's history, and we know him because he sucked at the national anthem. And now Ingrid Andress is going to be known. The problem is, the good news is for her, I didn't even know who she was before she sang the song, but now I know who she is. I only know of Ingrid because of her rendition of the national anthem. Fergie was bad, and we remember the best, Whitney Houston and Marvin Gaye. People like that can do whatever they want. Marvin Gaye can sing any song he wants and make it sound good. And Whitney was the same way. But there you go. That's what happened last night before the home run derby. How Teoscar was able to overcome that rendition and then go out there and win the derby and be the first Dodger ever to do it is beyond my understanding. But seriously, like, how can you not? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She's going to do what she's going to do. But run it by someone you know. We all have, don't you? Let me ask you a question. Do you have someone in your life? Most people have like that go-to person. It could be your wife. It could be your best friend. It could be maybe your dad. You know the person I'm talking about. You go up to them and you're like, hey, I need you to be honest. I need your take. I need you to be honest with me. What do you think about this? And that's what you do. You roll up on them and you're like, yo, I need your take on this. What do you think about this? And then they give you truth, knowing that, and you go into it knowing like, look, it doesn't matter, man. Just be brutally honest with me. What do you think about this? And after the first note, you're like, yeah, that sucks. Ingrid, I'm just going to be honest with you. Do not do that. Either eject or mix it up a little bit. So there you go. I'm not singing the song. And to all artists out there, don't sing the song. Unless you know you're a badass and you're going to crush it. Because if you mess up, you're going to be known like this.
Let me ask you this, Chad, real quick before we go to break. Would you have rather still finish this if you were her, or do you bail on it midway through and just be like, yeah, I'm not doing it?
Well, I would bail.
Okay. I might too.
I would bail, but if you're an artist, you got to, once you start and you're committed, you got to finish. You got to finish. You can't be a quitter. You don't want to be a bad singer, destroy the anthem, and quit all at the same time. So you got to, I give her partial credit for grinding through that effort because she had to know after the first couple of notes, like, but then again, she thought that was good when she went out there. So she probably thought she was crushing it. And then she looked at social media and she's like, I didn't crush that. No one thinks that I did a good job with that. All right, we'll talk with Keith Smith coming up next. We'll get his take on the Clippers and Kawhi debacle with Team USA. We'll get his take on Team USA. Donovan Clingan at Summer League. And then we'll find out if he thinks the Blazers can move any of the four vets that are on the roster right now this summer. You got the Rip City Mornings with Chad Deleone. Justin Myers back tomorrow. All right, our next guest is one of the best at covering the NBA with Spotrac and the Front Office Show. He is on X at Keith Smith NBA, and he is back here on Rip City Mornings. Keith, good morning. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I wanted to get your take on Donovan Clingan, who we saw last night, and he's had back-to-back games with double-digit rebounds, 8 total blocks, huge defensive plays in the final moments last night to secure the victory over Philly. What do you think about his play so far?
Yeah, I think you're kind of seeing everything that he can be for Portland, minus the jump shot. And that's going to be a work in progress. That'll probably be, a thing that'll evolve over, let's say, the first 3 to 5 years of his career. But right now, all the Blazers are asking him to do is finish around the rim, block shots, contest shots, and then rebound. And the blocking shots was really impressive. That play at the end of the game where Jared McCain got him, he was in kind of a half-drop coverage, but you see he's just got that length, and he's got pretty good foot speed to get out there and contest on guards taking pull-ups. That was good stuff.
Hey, Keith, with the people you talk to around the NBA, what have you heard about teams who will draft a guy with hopes that their mechanics are okay and they can work with him to help improve their shot to where maybe Clingan can become an effective three-point shooter or something like that?
Yeah, a couple things that teams look for is first, especially with big guys, is what do they look like when they're shooting free throws? Because free throw percentage has long been a good indicator of if a player can eventually become a competent jump shooter. Then you kind of get into, all right, does he take any shots from 10 to 15 feet? What about 15 to 18? What about out to the arc? And Clingan did enough of that people, I think, as they looked at him, said, okay, well, we can believe that this guy will eventually become a pretty good shooter. I don't know that it's ever going to be like Brooke Lopez, who made this incredible, really kind of ridiculous overnight transformation from one season. I think he'd taken like 16 total three-pointers through the first several years of his career, then showed up and took like 180 of them the next year. I don't know that it's ever going to be quite like that for Clingan, but I think the idea is in today's game, if he can step out and take 2 to 4 a game and hit him at a decent clip, that'll be enough for Portland.
How hard do you think that adjustment for Clingan will be going from state championships in high school, back-to-back titles at UConn, and moving into the NBA where you're starting out your career with a rebuilding project?
Yeah, that's always hard. You talk to a lot of these guys because you're absolutely right. Most of these guys come in and all they've ever done is won their entire lives, and then they get into the NBA and it's like, and now you're on a terrible team, and good luck, if you win, 25 games in your first season. So that can be a hard thing, especially for a kid like him. You saw he got a technical last night, which it was kind of funny because he was very confused as to why, and it was because he hit the stanchion, and you're not allowed to do that in the NBA, and so he'll learn those kind of things. But I think that's going to be where once we get to, let's say, the holiday period, and then we're moving into around the trade deadline and the like, that he is not in a spot where he's getting discouraged by the losing and losing his competitiveness. I don't think he will be, but you got to make sure that still stays in a balanced place where he understands, all right, hey, long term, this is what's best for us, and that's how we're going to get there.
Hey, Keith, what are some other storylines that you're focused on yourself for Summer League?
Yeah, I always like the new players, right? That's the first priority for me, is anybody who's coming in as a rookie, and that anybody who's going to likely be a rostered player. So by that, I mean a player who's on a first round or second round contract or a two-way deal or something like that. Like that is something that I really like to focus on, how those guys look. I don't really care as much about like shooting percentages and those things. It's more about how they look in these games. So that's something that I look at. And then it's players who are being asked to do something new. For example, Julian Strawther with the Nuggets in the first couple games has been tasked to be a primary on-ball creator. That's never been his role before, but the Nuggets are trying something new, and I always like to see how a guy looks in a spot like that.
We're talking with Keith Smith, who covers the NBA for Spotrac and the Front Office Show here on Rip City Mornings. With the Blazers, we expect them to be focused on the draft next year, especially with Cooper Flagg coming out and putting themselves in a position to continue to acquire young players and assets. But they do have multiple veterans on their roster right now: Robert Williams, Matisse Thybulle, Jeremy Grant. Do you think there'll be opportunities throughout the rest of the summer to potentially move one of those guys? Maybe Grant to L.A., the Lakers still looking for help. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think for Portland, they're going to be open all the way through the trade deadline on basically any of the veterans on the roster. I would expand that even to include, maybe somebody like Anthony Simons if they see, all right, this is not going to work with him and Scoot and Shaden Sharp all together in the backcourt. Well, maybe they see we're just too small. I think, and I've probably said this before, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself on your show, but that's one of the big losses of last season is there was too many injuries and they never get to see what that looks like. Can those three guys play together, right? That's something you want to try to find out. So I think what we're going to see with Portland here in the end is they will continue to look to move guys. I think for Robert Williams, it's probably going to be that's probably more of an in-season trade where he has to show he's healthy unless the team says, all right, you know what, we'll gamble on it because this contract isn't that big, but we can make it work. Maybe that's where it goes. Matisse Thybulle has got a really nice asset in because if he continues to shoot it the way he has, which I don't know what magic portal he walked through to Portland to become a shooter, but boy, that worked out pretty good, and his defense is always something teams are looking for. So guys like that, they'll definitely have a market for. Jeremy Grant, a little tougher because of the length of the contract, but yeah, you could see a team maybe like the Lakers who's kind of desperate for a bigger name and another quality player they can plug into the rotation. Maybe they would jump in there and make a deal for a guy like him.
Hey Keith, I'm wondering what insight you have on this Kawhi Leonard situation. The way it was presented when he walked away from Team USA is it was kind of a joint decision between the Clippers, Team USA, and Kawhi about protecting his body and making sure he was ready for the upcoming NBA season. But then Lawrence Frank came out and discussed how he was very disappointed with the decision for Team USA to replace Kawhi and that he was at practice and thought he looked really good. So what's going on there?
Yeah, I'm very confused by this whole thing because no one's really giving any clarity. Everybody's kind of dug in on their sides. Team USA is saying, hey, this was, Kawhi and the Clippers, and the Clippers are saying it was Team USA. The only one we haven't heard from on it is Kawhi, and we won't hear from him because the next time we'll hear from him, I assume, is probably on a media day ahead of the season starting. He's just not somebody who does a lot of stuff in the off season talking to folks. So my guess is somebody saw something they didn't like or he felt something he didn't like, and this is now nobody wants to be the bad guy here of, he was held out for whatever reason. And I think it's probably from the Clippers side as well, there's probably a little bit of a, hey, let's not have people spend all summer and then all fall worried about, is Kawhi okay? Like, we're starting the season. We lost Paul George. We need him if we're going to be competitive. So they're probably trying to control that message a little bit themselves.
How much of a mess is it for the Clippers to have Paul George walk to Philly?
Yeah, it's pretty soft. Now, I think I'd like to steal this from the movie Moneyball, where they say we can't replace Jason Giambi, but we replaced him in the aggregate.
Yep.
Right? That's one of my favorite things. So I think they kind of did okay with that, right? They got Nick Batum, they got Derrick Jones Jr., they're going to get presumably Chris Dunn in the door. We'll see with Kevin Porter Jr. what that looks like. But I think they did an okay job of bringing in talent. But the problem is, much like in a trade, nobody who gives up the four guys for the one ever generally wins that trade. It's more like you traded four, quarters for $1, and that's, it seems equal, but in the end, it really kind of isn't. So I think, the Clippers are in a tough spot because if Kawhi misses time, who's the guy there? Then it's going to be James Harden, right? And it's going to be, all right, give James Harden the ball, let it be the James Harden show, and off we go. So I think that part's going to be a little tough for them because he's not that guy anymore. This is not the James Harden of even 3-4 years ago where you could build an entire offense around him and feel like you can still get in a high level of competition. It's just not that same group, so they're going to have to figure that out because we do know one thing for certain: Kawhi will miss some time throughout the course of the year.
There's no doubt about it. Keith, you're close to the situation in Boston. How great are Derek White and Drew Holiday, and how fortunate are Steve Kerr and Team USA to have those two guys on their squad?
Yeah, getting those two guys who will not only not complain if they don't play a lot, they're just going to kind of go with the flow, and that's always important on Team USA because it's like an all-star team of an all-star team, and that becomes all right, somebody's not going to play very much, and in the past it's been the token college player and those kind of things. Now they're not doing that, so that becomes all right. Well, some one of these guys has to figure it out. So I think that part is really good. But then when they're asked to play they're going to give you terrific on-ball defense. They're switchable. They can do a lot of different stuff, and both of them can hit a jump shot, and both of them are, really good connecting players because they're somebody you can get the ball to. They'll get it moving. They'll get other people involved. So that's going to be huge. One of the things Team USA has struggled with at times in these international competitions is quick, small, speedy guards. No one thinks they're going to lose to Puerto Rico, but Puerto Rico has two little guards in Jose Alvarado and Tremont Waters who are very fast. And those are NBA-level guys, and they're going to be jetting all around the court, and it's going to be nice for Steve Kerr to say, all right, just go out there and take care of that, please. Go lock those guys up for a few minutes. That's big.
We're talking with Keith Smith, Spotrac, and the Front Office Show here on Rip City Mornings. The NBA got this massive new TV deal. Props to Commissioner Silver for getting it done. We're going to see the NBA now going back to NBC. We're going to see games on Peacock, on Amazon, and, of course, Disney. From what you're hearing, is this going to be better for the fan who likes to view NBA games? How do you think this will play out?
Yeah, that's an open-ended question. For me, for example, when I'm at home watching games, I want to be able to flip around channels and find games on League Pass or find them, on right now it's World, ESPN, or TNT. If this means I've got to boot up a streaming service to find the one game and then go, more often than not, I'm probably going to end up, unless it's an absolutely huge game, probably going to punt on the one game and then I'll watch it later. I'll watch it kind of on demand, later in the day, because it's just one of those things where I want to be able to kind of jump around the dial a little bit and look, or it'll be like a second screen experience. Now, one of the things I think that Major League Baseball has done really well with their extra innings package is, even if the game is on Apple or it's on this weekend, there was a game on Roku. I don't even know what that is. And then there's, other stuff, you can still get the game on your extra innings package. I would like to see the NBA, hey, if we're paying for League Pass, I get it. If it is, the prime game on ESPN or whatever, fine, make people go to ESPN. But if it's a game on a streaming service, it should probably still be available on League Pass, because I think that's just the only right thing to do by the fans. But we'll see, how this all comes together. I'm very curious about it.
I wanted to ask you, throughout the offseason so far, who do you think has had the best? Is it Philadelphia? Is it the New York Knicks? Is it Oklahoma City? Is it somebody else? Who do you see that you really like what they've done so far?
Yeah, you hit on the three that I've been going through when asked that question. I think those three teams did really, really well to, really kind of add to what they already had. Philly is almost like a rebuild of a good team around two All-Stars, which is weird because you don't normally see that, but I think they knocked it out of the park. Paul George will be really good. Yeah, we have the question, are they going to be healthy? And are they going to be healthy in April, May, and June? Because that's really what matters for this Philadelphia team. That'll only get answered with time. But as of right now, really good fitting players. I thought they did a nice job to get Kelly Oubre back, adding a guy like Eric Gordon. I think they're going to be really, really tough there in Philadelphia. And I think they're going to be a team that, will go to a different level this year, provided that they're healthy. And then the Knicks adding Mikal Bridges, it's like, You had OG Anunoby, now you had another version of him, and it feels like they're not really done, because maybe Julius Randle gets traded. They still need another center on that team, because you can't really go in with just Mitchell Robinson because of health concerns. So there's still more to come there, but I like what they did. And then Oklahoma City, talk about a team that was already really good. They added Isaiah Hartenstein, and now what you're going to see with him is that is a massive pickup, because what happens is that gives them lineup versatility. A lot of people immediately said, but isn't what made them special that Chet Holmgren is unguardable as a 5 because of the way he plays? Well, guess what? You can still do that, and they probably will. But on the nights when you play Embiid and Jokic and these other big physical centers, you can now go to Hartenstein and not expose Holmgren and play. It just gave them versatility, and I thought the way they structured all of their contracts was really smart. That's a team that is good, continues to get better, and will continue to improve as we move forward here.
Hey, what are you hearing around the league about Cooper Flagg and how good he is?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky. I've seen Cooper Flagg play a lot. I actually live very close to Montverde Academy, where he played this last season. So I've seen him quite a bit. The most impressive high school player I've seen since LeBron. Now, I am not saying he's going to be LeBron or better than Zion or any of those guys, but he really gets it. He's got an NBA-ready body. right now. That'll only improve at Duke because Duke knows how to build these guys up and get them ready for the next level. But his jump shot's a work in progress. That's going to be the thing we'll all be watching at Duke during his freshman season. But he can really rebound. He can really pass. He can handle the ball. He can get out and run. He's a terrific athlete. He's going to be really, really good. But beyond him, then you've got guys like Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper in this class. You have VJ Edgecombe, who played huge minutes for the Bahamas in high-level Olympic qualifying tournament games and really held up well. So I'm really excited about him, too. And then you got Nolan Traore coming out of France. As I've talked to the folks who really do this for teams, and then some of the people who are kind of the more amateur draft folks, almost consensus is any one of those 5 guys would have been the top pick in this year's draft class. So that tells you how loaded this class is coming in.
All right, Keith Smith with Spotrac and the front office show. You can find him on X at Keith Smith NBA, talking ball with us here on Rip City Mornings. As always, Keith, enjoy the conversation, man. Have fun watching the games, my friend, and good luck trying to figure out what Roku is. And when you find out, let me know, please.
Yeah, we'll do. As for right now, it's some channel that occasionally shows baseball at, for some reason, 11:30 Eastern on a Sunday morning. Which, I mean, that was fine, but I don't know. So I'll try to figure it out. Thanks for having me.
You got it, buddy. There you go. There's Keith Smith, who covers the NBA. Oh, my goodness. I love Drew Holiday and Derek White. 2 team guys who can play with stars, who don't need shots, and they're willing to defend. Kind of like Donovan Clingan. And Keith Smith, very impressed with what he saw from Clingan down in Summer League. And the Clippers are a disaster because Kawhi Leonard is not going to play a full 82. There's just no way in HE double hockey sticks. And I'll play the Lawrence Frank audio clips. I'll share my thoughts on the Clippers and what's going down. Somebody's lying, like usual. Someone is lying out of their devil ass. I don't know. I can't trust Grant Hill and Team USA because they lied about Jaylen Brown. He's not on the team, and they picked Derek White because Brown was critical of Nike. That's a problem. And then with Kawhi, you never know with Kawhi. Like, does he really want to play with Team USA? And I could see a very, very clear scenario where he's like, yeah, I don't think my body can do it, or he doesn't want to do it, or maybe Team USA just didn't want to take a risk of having him on the team knowing he's not reliable. And then Lawrence Frank comes out trying to save face and trying to protect his guy. I don't know. Whatever. Team USA is better off having Derek White instead of Kawhi anyways, because White will play big minutes and defend, and he doesn't need shots. And they got plenty of star power. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll talk football with Joe Deleone. Big thanks to Keith Smith. Joe's going to join us at 8:20. Chad doing in for Justin Myers. Ginger is back tomorrow. All right, very happy. I've not spoken with this guy in quite some time. Let's head out to New Jersey. My man Mitch is out there. Mitch, long time no chat. What's up?
How you doing, Chad? Whose fault is that? I guess it's 100% mine, right? You don't hear 100% guilty, right? It's always the other way around. Nobody's guilty of anything.
Mitch, I wanted to meet you face to face so bad when I was back in
I
New
know.
York a few weeks ago, but I understand after being in the city why you might have a little anxiety about getting out amongst the people. There's a lot of people there. It's crazy.
It's like Don Henley says, it's a lot easier to be in the band than be a solo. If I can find, but my brother, my friends, their grandfathers, I can't round them up. It's been easy, but then I always have this in my mind. I always imagine the worst things. It's like I always have this: what could happen? Not only I could just park the car, and I think that every parking lot is going to be like the George Costanza episode, the scene there. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And just walk and meet you there. I definitely want to go to a ball game. I'm even thinking about going to the USC game, but against Maryland in Maryland, October 19th. But they haven't told me the time. It's still to be determined. All goes according to TV's convenience. They come first. Money comes first, right?
Yes.
I can crash my brother. I'll buy his ticket. I can meet him there, but I don't know. I can now. I have the Big Ten. I've had everything but the Pac-12. Now they're in the Big Ten for some reason. You know, money.
Yeah, I get it.
I was hoping they come to the big. Yeah.
You had to be happy about your guy Teoscar winning the home run derby. First Dodger to do it, my friend.
Really, I know Frank Howard never did it, but they didn't have it in those days. This is just another cash. They're strapped for cash, right? But it is entertaining for a while. I watched some of it. I like those shortstops. I'm thinking future Dodgers, but then you hope these teams can afford their talent. And Baltimore has a lot of talent, especially Gunnar and Bobby Witt Jr. He's a heck of a player too. I'm hoping the Dodgers make a trade for Corey Seager, get him back. You know, defer everything, right? Defer. It only rewards for sports. You wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want that in the private industry, right? Nobody would go for that.
No, I'm with you on
you?
that. No, of course not. So, are you officially retired now? Are you officially retired, Mitch?
I'm waiting for them to call me a casual. FedEx is doing some scrupulous things. Now you have to have 40 hours in the bag just to get overtime. But I'll be casual. I have no benefits, no sick days. If I want to come in, yes or no. I can work no more than 20 hours, no overtime. But with FedEx now, from what my friends have told me and my coworkers, maybe I should have called them to go to New York to meet you. But, you know, they have their thing. Everybody's got their own families to worry about, right? What was I saying? You got to work 40 hours, so to get overtime. If you have a sick day or a personal day, it doesn't count. But I don't have to worry about that anymore. But I'm hoping they call me back. I got to wait to have a hiring freeze until Labor Day. But I'm doing okay. I'm loving this being a grandfather. He has me. He's killing me. I don't have that flexibility in my legs. My little. He just turned 2. Kylo.
Yeah, he's wrapped around your little finger. He's wrapped around your finger, Mitch.
Oh yeah. That's right. And my daughter want to keep the peace. I go along. You have to go along to get along. And she's going back to school, my daughter, and he's got daycare.
That's great.
We get a little break if he doesn't kill us. And I want to say about your basketball. I like what Poland has done. Maybe let's go get Trent. You got 2 good centers. Get Gary Trent Jr. I love you 3 guards. And I got to say my Kings and my Clippers did better. I like what the Clippers did. As long as Kevin Porter Jr. has his head on straight in his life, I don't want him. Hope he doesn't follow. I don't want to give his initials. Let's not do that, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Mitch. Well, dude, it's great. It's great to hear from you. I'm glad you're well.
Yeah, I'm not perfect, but who is, right?
Yeah.
Well, everywhere, I always say to my bosses. All right.
There you go.
I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
You're the best, man. There's Mitch in New Jersey. Like usual, really don't know what he just said, but I liked all of it. Now, one of my favorite moments in radio history was when Travis. Now, keep in mind, Travis DeBurse, my former partner who is now the voice of the Blazers, he grew up out there in New York, so he understands the dialect, and he knows a bunch of guys just like Mitch, and he knows a bunch of guys named Anthony. He impersonated Mitch once. This is what that sounded like. There you go. That's Travis doing his best Mitch impression. It sounds like the same guy, and that's because Travis grew up around a bunch of guys like Mitch. Well, the interesting part about Mitch, aside from his love of animals like myself, the fact that he drove for FedEx, and he never really answered the question if he's retired or not. Sounds like he is retired, but he wants to go back. I have no idea what he was talking about. But he's a West Coast sports fan, which is very interesting. I mean, you wouldn't think that a guy from New Jersey would be all interested in the Clippers, the Dodgers, and USC, but he is.
It's pretty unique. I'll give him that.
Speaking of the Clippers, let's take a listen to Lawrence Frank. I love to hate on the Clippers, and I'm not joking. Like, in my lifetime, the worst franchise in sports. And even with the red-faced, rich owner that they have now in Ballmer, and he's got the new arena coming in with a bunch of toilets, and he's really excited about that. They suck. And now, because they lost Paul George, they will not be able to compete for a championship. And their star player, Kawhi Leonard, was on Team USA, but now he's not on Team USA. We thought it was a joint decision, but now Lawrence Frank says it wasn't a joint decision, and he's confused. But he supports Team USA. Classic Clippers, let's just put it that way. But here's Frank discussing the decision. All right, so it was presented originally when Kawhi was going to step down from Team USA and they replaced him with Derek White, that it was a joint decision. And it sounded like it was health concern. And, of course, Kawhi always has health concerns. When he's actually hurt, they're concerned about his health. When he's healthy, they're concerned about his health. And that's just how it goes with Kawhi. Tremendous talent, great player, great two-way player, but not reliable. You don't know when he's going to play, when he's not going to play. Sometimes he shows up to the arena and you think he's going to play, but he's sitting out. Sometimes you think he's not going to play, but then he plays. It's just really weird to see a guy who's so good, but yet unreliable. And reliability or availability, I mean, those are some of the most important things in sports, but you can't rely on Kawhi. So what's going on here? Are the Clippers coming out, and is Lawrence Frank saying that just to save face and to make Kawhi look better? Because if he steps out with injury concern or he's load managing on Team USA, that looks bad on him. And so Lawrence Frank is trying to, cover his back because they lost Paul George and now he's their only star. Or is it a case where Steve Kerr and Eric Spoelstra didn't want Kawhi because they knew they couldn't rely on him and they're trying to win gold and they want to know that every guy they got will be available and be able to play and engage? That's quite possible. Maybe Kawhi decided he didn't want to play because he is worried about his body and the rehab and making sure his body's right for the season. But then when he stepped out, he took criticism, and now the team's trying to protect him. I'm not really sure. It could be a combination of things. But if I'm Coach Kerr, I would rather have Derek White than Kawhi. Why? Because Derek White can play big minutes, he's reliable, and he doesn't need touches. And he's used to playing with stars like Tatum and Brown and knows how to work off of those type of players. And when you have a team that's trying to win gold, you don't just need a roster full of studs. You've got to have some role players who can mix in, especially when you're talking about a team that doesn't have the time on the floor together like the Euros do and the rest of the competition they're going to face. The bottom line here is the Clippers suck and they won't be able to compete for a championship. I do like that they got Nick Batum back, who's still playing well this deep in his career.
How old is that guy by now, Chad?
He's like 55.
Goodness gracious.
Looks like $1 million. All right, we'll talk football. Joe Deleone is coming up at 8:20. Chad doing in for Justin Myers, Rip City Mornings. All right, it's 8 o'clock chat here. What's up, my friends? We start with the NBA where the Trailblazers got a win last night in Summer League action. 2 points over the Sixers. Donovan Clingan strong. 8 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and had a couple of huge defensive plays in the final moments to help secure the victory. Portland back at it tonight, taking on the Wizards. That tip-off at 5:30 on NBA TV. Team USA took out Australia 98-92 in an exhibition. Anthony Davis, 17 points, 14 boards. The 94th All-Star Game's coming up tonight. First pitch at 5 on Fox. Paul Skeens and Corbin Burns are your starters. Teoscar Hernandez having a big year for the Dodgers. Won the home run derby last night, becoming the first Dodger to do so, holding off Bobby Witt Jr. in that final round. The Browns have extended Dustin Hopkins 3 years. That deal worth $15.9 million. We'll talk college football with Joe Deleone at 8:20. All right, coming up in 20 minutes, Joe Deleone, who is one of my favorite college football analysts. He's really good with the draft. He's good with the NFL, college football, the whole shebang. He's coming up in 20 minutes. There are two things I want to talk with him about. One, he's been on like a 24-hour bender playing the new NCAA 25.
Might be me this afternoon, Chad.
Brendan's going to be on a bender this afternoon. And I will be on a weekend bender once I get my game on Friday. The only unfortunate part is going to cost me a lot more because I found out yesterday that my current system does not support the new game, so I've got to go out and get a new system.
That was a bitter pill. I felt bad for you, Chad. That's like, just rough. But hey, it'll last you for a long time.
Well, the problem is once I get a new system, what am I going to do with the Xbox One? Because I won't need it anymore. What do I do with that? Do I sell it?
Could probably get something for it. I mean, yeah,
give it
I
to
probably
somebody?
would.
Yeah, it sucks. I want to talk to him about the game. I mean, the guy's been on a bender, and I saw some videos and highlights of him playing it. Look, I'm not like a nerd. Let me rephrase that. I am a nerd. There's no question about it. I'm just not a big-time gamer. Like, I don't video game it all the time. But I have stretches where I will play either Madden or, in this case, NCAA football for an extended period of time, especially at night when I'm trying to unwind. I'm not one of those guys. I envy human beings who can lie down and go to sleep at an early hour, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. It doesn't matter whether I'm tired or not. I'm not going to lie down at 9 o'clock. My system and my body just can't adjust to that type of lifestyle. That's all. So it's nice to have something you can do to just where you can turn your brain off. Raise your hand if you can relate to this. My mind, it's always thinking about something. And usually not the most positive things in the world. I'm always gripping. And so it's nice to be able to do something where you can just turn that part of your brain off and be able to relax. So that's where the video games come in. And I enjoy that. The other thing I got to talk to him about, a couple of weeks ago, he spent 24 hours at a McDonald's. He lost some type of bet, and he had to spend 24 hours at a McDonald's eating nothing but McDonald's. And so he consumed a bunch of food, and I don't think it did very much for his health. So I want to talk to him about that as well. But we'll get his take on a variety of different things.
So he was in like a 24-hour McDonald's and just like chilled in the lobby for a day?
Yeah, eating food.
Wow, man, that's a challenge, all right. I'm impressed.
Well, I don't think it's good for your health.
No, probably not. Definitely not. But nevertheless, that's I think I'd get bored after just a few hours, Chad.
I think he did. Did you ever see that show, Super Size Me?
Yeah. R.I.P. to that dude, by the way, too.
Well, what are you saying? What? He died?
Yeah, he passed away. Justin and I talked about it a couple weeks ago. The Super Size Me guy, he passed away from, I think it was cancer or something along those lines. But yeah, he passed away. But yes, great movie. Great movie.
Okay. I need you to do me a favor. Are we shortening rest in peace now? We can't say rest in peace. We're shortening it up to RIP.
I've just always said that, but I could say rest in peace too.
Yeah, I think that's disrespectful. So, one, look up the guy's name, and then when you have his name, I want you to come back on, and I want you to say rest in peace to his name. I did not know he was dead. This is troubling news to me.
Rest in peace to Morgan Spurlock.
All right, Morgan Spurlock.
Passed away in May of this year.
I'm sure Super Size Me had nothing to do with his untimely passing.
I have some questions.
All right. So Joe Deleone's coming up at 8:20. A couple of things real quick. In fact, we can hear from our boy Donovan Clingan. I'm down with this guy. You know, I have been, and I've said this time and time again, I am not a huge fan of the American-born, white, big NBA player. And that's because basically since Larry Bird, they've all been not very good. Aside from Kevin Love, who I respect and love. I love his dad, Kevin Love. But aside from that, it's like these guys don't play well. And then all of a sudden, Chet Holmgren reemerged and has given me hope. And Donovan Clingan right now is making me very happy. Back-to-back games now with double-digit rebounds, 8 total blocks. He had 5 assists last night and was balling out of his backside. Not to mention the 2 big defensive plays late. And he got the ball back, which secured the victory for Portland because he forced a 5-second violation. Donovan Clingan likes defense. Check that. Donovan Clingan loves defense. He wants to be an intimidator. And last night he was working his ass off. I love that. And teammates love that. And this guy comes from a winning culture. He knows what it takes to get the job done. And he's going to work his butt off. He's basically everything you want in a rookie. And he's tough, and he's got size, and his foot speed might appear to be a little bit better than what we first thought. And those are all great signs. Because this guy can come in right away and set the tone defensively. He can challenge guys in practice. He actually knows what winning feels like because he comes out of UConn on back-to-back championships. But he was effective last night. 8 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks. 4 of 11 from the field. Like, the offense is going to take time, and that's something Keith Smith talked about. But when I hear this guy talk, I'm like, give me more of Donovan Clingan. I like it a lot. There you go. Love that. Love the work he's putting in. Love to see the progression. And the Blazers back at it tonight. Donovan Clingan making his presence felt down at Summer League, which is terrific. And that's what you want from that guy. Defense, continuing to work. And I think, sometimes culture gets overblown, but the Blazers are collecting some young guys who appear to be willing to put in the time and the work to continue to improve. And when you got multiple guys who work hard, who grind and get after it, and then you add in guys who want to play defense, that can be very good for the franchise. But I'm a big fan of Donovan Clingan. I was very excited on draft night when the Blazers got him at number 7. Not expected to fall to 7. He fell to 7. The Blazers got him, and so they walked away on draft night feeling pretty good about themselves. And not to mention they got Denny Avdia from the Wiz in that Malcolm Brogdon deal. Malcolm Brogdon was a great mentor to some of the younger guys. I feel bad for him that he got sent to Siberia and has to be with the Wizards for a period of time, but he'll be dealt soon, and hopefully he'll get back to a franchise who can compete. But the Blazers like to see the young building blocks, and this is what it's all about. Young assets, young players, continuing to acquire talent. And hopefully that will culminate with the draft selection of Cooper Flagg. I mean, it won't because nothing good ever happens here to us in Portland, but I hope that it ends with Cooper Flagg.
Gotta believe, though, right?
Not if you're a Trailblazer fan.
This is true.
I mean, do you believe you're a Beaver fan? Do you believe, Brenden? And since when are you one guy to believe?
It's not. It's true. It's true. I'm a skeptic. He's not wrong, folks.
Yeah, and I'm not criticizing you for being a skeptic, but you're more of a doomsday guy than a gotta believe guy.
Well, yes, to put it simply, there are times, Chad, when my glass is more half empty than half full. Right?
Do you believe in the Beavs' position right now without a conference?
Not really. They need a conference.
I'm with you. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Joe Deleone is coming up next. We'll talk ball with Deleone. Rip City Mornings, Chad doing in for Justin Myers. All right, our next guest you can find on X. He's at Joe Deleone, part of the Ruffino and Joe show, also the First Team Pod. It's Joe Deleone who's back. Joe, it's so great to talk with you. We have to start with college football 25. You have been playing. The last 24 hours appear to have been an epic 24 hours in your life. I can't wait until Friday, so give us your breakdown on NCAA 25. How legit is it?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, getting to play it again and the game being back out definitely makes the experience worth it. It's just good that we've got a modern version of it, and I don't have to play on an Xbox 360. I will say though, it does take a little bit of time to get used to the way that they changed the game. It is very different from Madden. It's not at all similar in the way that the passing mechanics work. The playbooks are a little tough to really know, what works and what doesn't. But it's fun. I'm juiced up. I wish I could be playing it more. I do have to get some work done, but it's been fun so far in the past day, getting to do the stream that I did with Bleacher Report, and then just sitting down and crashing like I did last night.
See, that's going to be the challenge, right? Because it's almost like Christmas, where this weekend's going to hit. You're going to be looking at the new toy and wanting to play, and yet your mind is going to be telling you, look, Joe, stay focused. We have work to do. We got to break down prospects. We got to talk about these teams, SEC Media Days, and I don't know who's going to win that battle, man.
Yeah. That's the real truth, though, is just trying to stay focused, because the season is right around the corner, and SEC Media Days is, as you kind of hinted there, is that everything that's being talked about, all the headlines that are coming out of especially Kirby Smart talking today, Brian Kelly talking yesterday, the buzz is starting to kick up. We're getting really close to the start of the season.
All right, Joe, I let my listeners know what you had been up to recently, and so I just want you to give us a quick breakdown. Why were you spending 24 hours in McDonald's, man? That was incredible, and your social posts were truly awesome.
Yeah, so the antithesis of why that happened, I came in last in my fantasy league and thought it would be a really fun way to track and keep up with it by live tweeting the event in which I was doing my punishment for fantasy. Our friend group in our fantasy league had decided that we wanted to do the waffle challenge, which is known as having to sit in a Waffle House, and for every waffle that you eat, you have to stay there for 24 hours. For every waffle you eat, it takes off an hour. And we couldn't find a Waffle House that was close enough, so we created and kind of doctored our own plan for a McDonald's, created a spreadsheet that had different time allocations, and it certainly exploded a lot more than I expected. Did not think going into it I was going to get as much attention as I did on the day on Twitter, but it was a fun experience and certainly a very unique one to barrel my way through and get in and out of there in 8 hours.
Well, I tell you what, man, and I mean this seriously, Joe. I've done a lot of crazy things for radio to connect with listeners, and it was nice to watch you do that, because while I felt your pain, I was also living vicariously through you, and I always had to check your feed to see what was cracking, what you were eating, and how you were feeling. I could see your countenance decline over the course of time, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, there was a very slow, dragging crawl to get to the finish line. I started hot enough that I was able to knock off a ton of the calories at the beginning, but as you're saying, it was a battle towards the end, and certainly was trying to get out of there as quickly as possible.
All right, Joe, I want to play a couple of clips for you to get your reaction. First off, here's Nick Saban talking about Texas at SEC Media Days. And what'd you think about Saban taking a nice little shot there at Texas?
Well, I think, one, for the necessary context, obviously he's a close relationship with Sarkisian, so he's trying to get under his former offensive coordinator's skin, I'm sure. And he's been having a lot of fun on the desk, which has been really, really fun to watch and listen to the way that he's talking about some of these guys that have been his colleagues. And so many of them at one point or another were a member of his coaching staff at Alabama. But there's a lot of truth to it. And there is a lot of necessary conversation about Texas, because right now there is this expectation that they're going to come flying in their first season, and they should be one of the better teams in the SEC. There's a very good chance they finish in the top 3 in the conference. They go into the college football playoff. That Quinn Ewers has maybe a Heisman Trophy type season, but he does bring up the very good point of why should we suddenly now believe that they're going to be ready for this huge jump in competition that they'll be facing, because in the history of the past 10 years, since Mac Brown was the head coach at Texas, they have been struggling. They have been playing at a subpar level in a conference that is, at one point, I wouldn't say currently at this current moment, but at one point was deemed to be the weakest Power 5 conference. So there are a lot of expectations. There is a lot of pressure on Sarkisian to start this season off hot, and they have a schedule that should really benefit them and set them up for early success.
Yeah, that's no doubt. I'm wondering for you, because I grew up in Oklahoma, so I'm a Sooner fan, but what do you think is the biggest adjustment going from one conference into the SEC? Is it recruiting? Is it the competition? What do you think is the biggest challenge those two schools face this year?
I think the biggest thing for Oklahoma and Texas, and they've both done a very good job of trying to prepare for this through recruiting over the past couple of years, but playing along the lines of scrimmage, you're going to be facing off against teams that have really stout defensive lines like Alabama, like Georgia. Tennessee has a very underrated defensive line. Ole Miss is a really good defensive line that they put together through the transfer portal. So being strong enough on your O-line to get push in the run game, and then inversely to be able to fight against these big, massive, hulking offensive lines that you're going to see. I think that the current situation for Georgia, like their offensive line is projected to be over 320 pounds on average, which is insane to say. That number actually might be bigger, but there are some big bodies that you're just not seeing in the Big 12, and that's the one big differentiator when you watch these games, and also when you just scout these players to the NFL. There's really not a lot of offensive linemen that come out of the Big 12. There's not really a lot of interior defensive linemen that come out of the Big 12, because those bodies are typically recruited to go play in the Big 10 or the SEC. So that's where I think that there could be a little bit of shock to the system. But what does help Texas specifically is that they were aggressive in the portal, and they've got guys like Kelvin Banks on their offensive line that are going to help them this season.
Hey, Joe, I wanted your read on Oregon from the standpoint that, look, it's nothing new. We know that Phil Knight wants the Ducks to win a championship badly, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. But apparently he's got an open checkbook when it comes to the NIL, in basically telling Oregon, do whatever it takes to get what you need to get it done. And until there's controls and you basically have a no-limit cap in terms of what you can spend, and we're seeing the fruits of that with Lanning and his recruiting, do you think that could give Oregon a chance to be competitive and have a chance to make a run at a title? How do you see that?
Yeah, I think that maybe not this upcoming season, and there's certainly going to be an expectation and a hope that they'll be in the conversation and one of the last teams standing in the playoff this year. Their team is good enough, but more importantly, building a roster that can compete with in the Big Ten, which they're already at that point. You know, they're already stout on their O-line and D-lines to be able to do that, and then also to be able to knock off a team like Georgia. It's going to take them a few recruiting cycles. We saw how long it took for Kirby to really get into his bag and get into his rhythm. They have that benefit of what you're talking about, where Phil Knight is trying to fund this venture for them to succeed and to win a national title now that it is more readily available and easy to do. And even Kirby Smart made a comment today saying he wishes he had Phil Knight in his corner, almost acknowledging that he sees what's coming down the pipe in maybe a year or two when he's going to be having to face Oregon potentially for a national championship. But I will say, though, the way that Lanning, outside of the money that he's getting to help him in recruiting, the way that he is structuring this roster and building it, it does feel very SEC-esque. They're very, very physically stout and dominant along both lines of scrimmage, and that is only going to help them when they do get to the college football playoff and they do have to square up with these SEC foes.
How much of a drop-off is there from Bo Nix to Dylan Gabriel this year for Oregon, if any?
I honestly don't think that there's going to be much of a drop-off. I know that the expectation is going to be super high because of how good Bo Nix was and the fact that he reached the Heisman Trophy ceremony and all that. I think that there shouldn't be an expectation that it should be immediately hitting the ground running, because Bo Nix had 2 seasons of time in that offense. I know he had different offensive coordinators, but a relatively similar offensive scheme. That turnover to Dillon Gabriel, I think that what benefits him is that he's stepping into a system that he is really built for and built to succeed in. A guy at Oklahoma who's just quick trigger, get the ball out, doesn't have the biggest arm to stretch the field, but is decisive and able to set up his receivers to be playmakers. And I look at how the Oregon receiving room might have improved as they added Evan Stewart, even though they lost some faces to the draft. Dillon Gabriel could end up being the right guy to be in the mix to take this offense to another level, but there should not be an expectation that they immediately explode and they just pick up right where they left off from last season.
Who is the best team in the country in your mind? Is it Georgia? Is it somebody else? Who do you think is the front runner right now as we get ready to enter camp?
Yeah, right now for me it's Georgia, and I think that Ohio State's a close second. I think that the only real big difference between the two is the fact that Georgia returns their quarterback in Carson Beck. And I look at Ohio State's roster where, like Michigan this past season, they enticed a lot of upperclassmen to come back on their O-lines and D-lines, and their secondary is really dangerous. Georgia has a lot of talented players at all those position groups, but because Carson Beck comes back and we saw some real flashes of what he could be as a playmaker and as a leader for that Georgia offense, he gets another shot at it this upcoming season, being exposed to knowing what needs to be done to win a national title. So I really think that Carson Beck, as he already had a natural feel when Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey were out, he can take a step forward in order to be at the Heisman podium this year, and then more importantly, to help them win a national championship again.
We're talking with Joe Deleone from the Rufino and Joe show here on Rip City Mornings. Oh, what are you hearing in regards to the rumors that the Big 12 could be after Clemson and Florida State?
Yeah, I have not really heard much context on this. I know that there's a lot of rumors swirling right now. I think that it's all just talk at the current moment. I think that it's talking season and there's nothing to really talk about. So as Brent Yormark last week kind of hinted at hey, we're still open for business, didn't really quiet any potential thoughts on if teams were going to come in or not. He basically opened the door for it, and I think because of that, it just created this wave and this whirlwind of, if he's saying that must mean he's talking to somebody. He's talking to some of these schools. This is purely speculation. There's no sourcing on this, but I feel like if there is going to be a team in the ACC that goes to the Big 12, I don't think it's going to be Clemson or Florida State. I feel like it's going to be just like how Colorado was the catalyst for all the movement that happened last year. It was the least suspecting team. Everybody thought that Oregon or Washington might be some of the first to leave. I think if an ACC team does leave, it would be somebody that's a little bit more middle of the pack. I don't know who that is exactly, but it could be somebody that is unsuspecting that leads to some teams to jump. If not, the ACC could potentially just end up sticking and staying together and surviving for a few more seasons.
All right, one more final question for you. A lot of Duck fans here, of course. Bo Nix is now in Denver getting ready for his rookie season with the Broncos. I used to live in Denver. There's a quarterback battle, so to speak, going on, and they've got a veteran there in Jarrett Stidham. But where do you come out on rookie quarterbacks starting the season under the helm or getting a few weeks before they get their first action? What do you think is the best course of action for a guy like Bo?
Yeah, I think for somebody like Bo, because he's an older player, he's very experienced, he has so many snaps underneath his belt, I think he's the type of guy that should step in and start right away. There's really not going to be much of a difference between him and Zach Wilson in the level of performance early on. I think that, if anything, Bo is a much more conservative decision maker that would probably play a little bit better in Sean Payton's offense. So in this particular circumstance, I think it just depends on the type of player, the type of offense. There are a lot of holes on that Broncos team, but at the same time, let Bo get in there, let him go make mistakes, let him go figure things out and learn, and there's a chance that he could hit the ground running and have a really not an offensive rookie of the year type of a first year in the league, but just a promising one that could spark some optimism in the eyes of Broncos fans.
All right, Joe, as a former long snapper and someone now that's grinding and getting it done in media, you got to stay strong this weekend, man. The Your Xbox is going to be calling your name, and you just have to stay strong, stay true to the work, and then when you're done with it, you can go and get back on NCAA 25. I have faith in you, my man.
I appreciate the advice and the faith you're putting in me. I'm going to try to, as hard as I can, to really block out the time to play the game and to block out the time to get work done so I don't get distracted.
All right, you're the man, dude. We'll talk soon. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
There you go, Joe Deleone. Rufino and Joe Show. That guy's so good. He was having so much fun playing NCAA 25. Oh, my goodness. So what did he say? Oh, yeah, the playbooks are tough. The setup in terms of, the configuration's not like Madden, so it's going to take some adjustment, but that's good.
It's quite a bit different just from my early looking at it, too.
But what's the biggest difference you've noticed? Is it the passing game?
Like he was saying about throwing, like it is, if you try to throw like you throw in Madden, like you're going to throw a pick. Like it's just the timing's different. How you do like read options in Madden is completely reversed compared to college. Playbooks are interesting. Like, like he said, very different from Madden. But going back to what he said was the coolest part, just the pageantry, like, being at Reser Stadium, and after a first down, you hear the da-da-da. I mean, it's just like so accurate down to like I love that. The smallest detail. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty darn cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes me happy. That makes me real happy. But I want the challenge. I want the AI to be really good because I've played Madden so much that the AI's got nothing on me. I need better AI to challenge me. I want to be challenged out there. Because it's really frustrating when the computer is beating you. You start double barreling the screen. You're like, screw this. And I have to resist the temptation to hit the reset button.
I don't think you've been a true college football or just video game sportster in general if you haven't rage quit your console at least once. Or it's just like, yep, all right, don't like where this game is going. Turn it off and try it again.
No, it's so dumb. And to know that you're letting a computer, not even a human being, get the best of you, it's very frustrating.
You're right. That AI just keeps getting better and better, I guess.
Man, the season is almost here. I love college football so much. I go through phases, and right now I am all in. And it's been like this for about 4 or 5 years where I love going to games. I love watching the games. I love college football playoff expansion. And this is going to be fun. Good times. All right, we'll keep things rolling. The mailbag is coming up next. I am 22 minutes away from freedom from early morning activity for a while. Thank goodness. Justin Myers is back tomorrow. Mailbag's up next. All right, checking the messages that have rolled in. JCR says, "Hey, Chad, understood everything your boy from Jersey said." Well, that makes one of us. I'm assuming you have some East Coast ties, my friend. Also, got a message here. What was the song that started the show today? It sounded like a soundtrack tune, but I haven't heard it before. It was Going Home from Toto off Toto 20. And I saw a YouTube video with Rick Beato, who's got one of the best music channels on YouTube. Music insider, talented musician, interviews a lot of big-time music stars. He's got a great channel. He does a lot of top 10 and top 20, countdowns in terms of the best guitar solos, the best acoustic guitar intros, drum fills, the whole deal. He does everything. But he did a breakdown on a Bieber song, and I can't remember the title of the Bieber song off the top of my head, but basically the Bieber song was probably copied, or someone that's always searching for stuff for some of the new artists may have been influenced by the Toto song Going Home. And it's off of Toto 20. So that's where we're at. Blazers in action tonight, 5:30 NBA TV against the Wizards. Major League All-Star Game, the 94th edition. 5 o'clock tip on Fox. And then we'll kick off the second half of the season, and hopefully the Mariners will put together a plan to find somebody that can actually hit the baseball. Hey, DePoto, are you awake right now? You might want to get on that. Let's check the standings right now. What are the odds that the Mariners are going to win the division? Is it like 0? Their lead over the Astros now down to 1 game. One single game. 2.5 weeks ago, they're up by 10. It's been a very rough couple of weeks for the Mariners. They can't hit. No run support. You know, the usual. It's the same stuff. Now it's just up to them to go out there and get some guys who can actually help. Produce runs. And then also show the clubhouse and the guys that are there that you're serious and committed about winning. It's just frustrating because they have the pitching to be able to do something special come postseason time. But in order to get to that time, they need to find someone that can actually produce runs. That's all. Yeah, you need some offense occasionally. Let's see here. Baltimore's up by a game on the Yanks. The Guardians are on fire, 58 wins, 4.5 up on the Twins. Mariners a game up on the Astros. Philly, best team in baseball, with 62 wins, 8.5 up on the Braves, who have been injury riddled. The Brewers continue to lead the Central, 4.5 up on the Cards. And the LA Dodgers, 7 games up on both the Diamondbacks and the Padres. And the Dodgers with 56 wins.
There's some good races in there, Chad, but the one that I'm definitely keeping an eye on, the two, are obviously the Mariners and the Astros, and then this last weekend, after the Yankees took the series against Baltimore, that's a series that is just neck and neck right there, too. So some division winners still yet to be decided here in the second half, and it's going to be interesting to see how those chips ultimately fall.
No doubt. I love Aaron Judge a lot. I have a man crush on Judge. He's awesome. But pulling for Adley Rutschman because he's terrific. And then I want Cleveland to win the division because Stephen Kwan has been on fire this year.
Oh,
I love his story.
He's been such a cool thing because, you know, Chad, when I was at Oregon State when he was there, and everyone, the consensus was he's a really good college player. No one saw this coming. No. That's like Adley, you could have squinted and been like, okay, number 1 pick, all these things. That wasn't Stephen Kwan, man. So credit to that kid.
No, and the first person that didn't see it coming was Stephen Kwan, who had to overcome self-doubt and discovered the power of meditation to be able to get to a point where he could have confidence.
Yeah, great story.
All right, Brenden, let's do it. Mailbag time.
All right, Chad, I've been meaning to ask you this question for a little bit now, just because I know it was interest to you. So you are a thrill seeker. You like to ride rides. You go to Six Flags, do that kind of thing, right?
I've been skydiving.
Got you. Okay. So a couple weeks ago, maybe it's like a month ago now, I'm assuming you saw the news that what happened at Oaks Park. where the people got suspended upside down.
Yeah, on my daughter's favorite ride. Yes.
Okay, so this is even better content. I'm just curious because Justin and I talked it through and everything. He's like, "Nah, I wouldn't do that with 10-foot pole." You, Chad, how would your reaction have been? Do you think you could have been calm, or would you have been, freaking out, for lack of better terms?
I would have been calm because on that ride, you've got the shoulder harness and you're strapped in. Like, you're not going to go anywhere. It just would have gotten really uncomfortable to be upside down that high up in the air. It would have been physically uncomfortable because you got the blood rushing to your dome. So,
because in general, like, I guess I don't know. I'd have to Google it. But, like, how long can a human stay upside down?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that specific question. But, yeah, I would have felt okay because of the harness and the seatbelt. So you're not going to go anywhere. But I do know that the youngsters, according to the reports I read, there was crying and people praying and a lot of concern. Now, young Chad would have been panicked, but older Chad would have been like, we got the shoulder harness. I'm seatbelted in. I'm not going to go anywhere. Now, get this thing back on the ground so I can get off and get the blood flow back into the other parts of my body, please.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because, like, when that happened, Justin, rightfully so, was like, yeah, Brenden, you would have been the one, screaming up on that. I was like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have. I don't think it would have been scared more than anything, Chad, as just, you probably know this about me. I'm not a particularly patient person.
No one is in this country.
I'm like, I am go, go, go. And,
but I would not have been on that ride because while I do enjoy thrill seeking to a degree, I don't like things that make me sick.
Yeah.
So
fair.
circles, spinning around, like I don't need that in my life.
For sure, for sure. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Oh, this will be a good one. Chad, if you could bring back any fashion trend and make it popular, what you going with and why?
That's a great question.
Like hairstyle, clothing, like anything. You could rock anything, and you are the inspiration for it.
Yeah, I want the 70s back because I've had a long time desire to have an afro. And if I could have an afro with bell bottoms heading down to the local discotheque, I'm all about that.
That's awesome. Chad with the fro in the 70s, man. That would have been a sight to see. Love that.
Dude, I used to love that. I think it was Billy Sims for Oklahoma. Beautiful fro. And I don't know how he fit the helmet over the top of his dome with the fro, but it was perfect. I need that in my life.
Yeah, I could totally see that for sure. All right, let's one more, and then we'll close it out here, Chad. I think I know the answer to this, but if you had unlimited time and resources, you golfing most of the time or something else on your bucket list that you're like, you wouldn't take on unless you had a lot of time and money?
I would golf every single day.
Every day. Yep.
For an entire year.
Self-explanatory.
365 straight days of being on the golf course. I can't think of a better way to spend my time and resources.
Yeah, no, that'd be a good way to do it, man. Chad had the nicest clubs in the state, man.
All right, big thanks to our guest today, Keith Smith from Spotrac and the Front Office Show. And, of course, Joe Deleone talking football, Brenden Slaughter. You guys have a great day. Rip City Drive at 3 with Chris Burkhart and Dwight Janes. And then Justin Myers back with Brenden tomorrow morning, Rip City Mornings at 6 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.